Yo, what is going on everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we'll be doing the third installment of our manipulation header tutorials. But before this video does start, guys, make sure to go follow me out on Twitter at ShortyVisuals. That's where you guys can speak to me the most. That's where I'll give the most feedback, all that kind of stuff. We're about to hit 3K, so make sure to go follow me on Twitter and you guys can be more interactive with me because that is where I'm most active. But anyway, guys, let's get straight into the video. So to start things off, we've grabbed a bunch of images that I have already set up I've done a bit of like a practice one just so that we can make sure this is going to look good. So these are all the images I've got here. And this is what we're going to be using to create a jungle sort of themed manipulation header. Alrighty, so to start things off, we're going to set out our background and work from the background to the foreground as I usually would do for a manipulation. So first things first, we've got our logo, which is going to hang out around here. This is just Saw's logo. If you want this one, it'll be on Google. I'm absolutely sure of it. But I've gone to the length of creating it as a custom shapes just so I can move it around and stuff. But you guys don't need to do that. It's not very necessary. But anyways, so we have our logo being the Saw logo, and then we've just got a bunch of like vine and tree assets, all those sort of things that we're going to use to build up the foreground later. But as I said, we're going to build up the background first. So first things first, we need to position this. We are really only going to be using the sky and a little bit of the mountains here. So we're going to build up the foreground of the background, if that's how you would say it, with this image here. We're going to be using the mountain range and get rid of the sky pretty much. So all these mountain ranges here is what we're going to be using. So we're going to roughly pen tool that out, and then we're going to layer mask it and use the refine edge tool. Alrighty guys, so now we're going to make a selection with that, and we're going to go down here and create layer mask. Now that we have our layer mask here, what we're going to do is go up the top here to properties, scroll down and select our select and mask, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this tool up here called the refine edge tool, and we're just going to go along the edges here and just go over the area that we didn't pen tool properly. And what this will do is it will refine it just so that it is the ridge line of the trees and get rid of that little bit of sky that we had. And there we are. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go Control J, and then we're going to press Control T, and we're going to hold Shift and bring this one across, flip it horizontally just like this. And we're going to bring mountains just sort of around this way, just so that we can sort of duplicate them up together. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to click on our layer mask and grab a black brush with 0 hardness, and just going to position it so that the two mountains sort of blend in together. Just like that, that'll do. Now that we have our two mountain ranges sort of coming together, we're going to reposition that one a little bit. Sort of. That's looking good. So, alrighty, so on second thought, I might actually get rid of these blue mountains at the back here just because it's contrasting so differently with everything else that's going on here. So we're going to get rid of those. Here we are, and now we're going to make this one a little bit bigger, drag it across like that. Now that'll do for now, and then what we can do here is, because we want to keep this sort of with an orange background, we're going to change this blue here to like a light yellowy orange sort of color, so sort of like here. And then we're just going to brush over it, new layer, and then we're going to clip that one on top of the layer using Alt. And then we're going to go up here to the blending modes and change that color. Opacity, we're just going to bring that down a bit. Just to a point where it starts to blend a little bit more with the background. And then we're going to grab the erase tool real quickly and just try and get rid of it on the ridge line here. But put it on 0 hardness so it blends nicely along the ridge line like this. I'm going to keep going back over this parts that are blue and make sure that we Alrighty, that is looking nicer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build up sort of like a cliff ridge line along the front, and that's sort of where we're going to base our foreground. So first things first, we need to build up the front here. So we're going to use this image here, and we're going to use this rock at the front here. So we're going to pen tool that out, and then that will become our sort of cliff ridge line. Then we're going to layer mask on that, and now we're going to grab this other image here, just another flat sort of rock image, and we're going to pen tool this sort of flat rock out as well. Alrighty, so we're going to put that one on layer mask as well, and what we're going to do now is we're going to position this one below. And we're going to use these two as sort of like the sides of the cliff, so put them about this far, and then we're going to control J, and then we're going to shift, bring it back the other way. Go, and now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the rock above, click on the layer mask, with a black brush, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and we're just going to erase away like that. So we have like none of the bushes, and it's mainly just the rock sort of material. We just want to sort of bring these in so it's like one cliff sort of, like it looks like one cliff, not 3 different images. We're going to bring this in a little bit, make it a bit bigger. And now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the top one and simply just bring like the texture of this rock over the top of them. We want the form of the ones below, but the texture of the rock above everything else. Just with a black brush on the layer mask, just erase back that the texture fades into it. And then we can control J, duplicate that one, bring it back over the top here, and voila. There is our rock ridge line, and we'll do some lighting on that later, but for now we're going to set up the rest of the sides. So I went on Google and grabbed a bunch of tree PNGs and stuff like that. You guys can do that really easily as well. Just actually go on Google, search up jungle tree PNG or tree PNG, anything like that, or you can pen tool your own ones out. It really depends on what you guys are after. But for today's video, we're just going to be using this nice simple one here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our lasso tool at the top here, and we're just going to cut this one in half, just like that, and then layer mask. And then what we're going to do is control J, and then go over to our layer mask and control I. Now we have both sides, but they are separated. So we'll grab this side and put it over here. Like that. Just realized that I didn't cut it out wrong, so I didn't cut it out right, sorry, so we'll get rid of that. And then we'll grab this side and bring that back over. Make sure it's touching the top and bottom. Alrighty, too easy. So now we're starting to build a bit of depth and build up our foreground a little bit more. So now we're going to put our logo in the middle here, and no, it's not going to be pink, it's just so it stands out and I know where it is. This is sort of the angle that I'm going for. We're going to go for like a viney sort of look, so it's made out of like all vines and that sort of stuff. For that, we're going to build up our like fernery or foliage up the top here. So we're just going to move around some images of vine PNGs and all that sort of stuff that we found on Google. And we're just going to build that up real quick. So we'll just make this one a little bit smaller. Have it sort of dangling from the top here. And then these aren't even vines, these are just basic like bushes. So just search up bush PNG and you'll find this sort of stuff. Make it a bit bigger and then flip it upside down, and then just slowly make it build up like foliage sort of stuff. Like there's bushes and leaves and like that that's like sitting at the top, like covering everything up. This will sort of just build up your depth of field a lot more for your manipulations when you start to do stuff like this. It is essential to build up your foreground when going for stuff like this. So then we're just going to chuck one on the side, and then we're going to do that again, except we're going to put that behind the tree this time just to build up some more depth. Make it a bit smaller, just like that. Alrighty, so now we've got this vine here. We're gonna chuck that here. Angle around here. And then we've got another photo of like a tree sort of. We're just gonna bring that one upside down again and just sort of build it up here. Bring that below everything else, duplicate that with Control J. That, and I realize that there's a bit of an edge on it, so we'll raise that away. That. Alrighty, so we are going to leave it there with the top of the foliage build up, and we're going to quickly add this little viney tree sort of thing. I'm going to put that behind all the foliage but in the corners, and only use the like bushy sort of parts, so just like pretty much like that, then put that behind the trees. That just so it builds up a little bit more like fernery in the corners. Control J, and then we're going to flip these. We're gonna not do that. Put that one just like this. Don't mind the terrible quality at the moment. It'll get better once we back down. Go. And now that's looking good. Now what we're going to do is probably the most lengthy part of the tutorial here, is we're going to build up the actual logo itself, which is going to take a while just because we've got to use about 100 images of the vines just to sort of build up the shape of the logo. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our logo, we're going to put that above everything else, even though it's in the middle. We're just going to put it above everything. And now what we're going to do is, using this picture and this picture, we're going to create the shape of the saw logo. So we're using this one mainly just because of the massive bend here. We can use that for all the nice rounded corners, and then this one is going to be for all the straights and all that sort of stuff. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that it's a smart object, because we're going to be making it smaller and bigger constantly, so we're going to keep it as a smart object. We're going to duplicate that one, and then we're just going to slowly build up the shape of the saw logo. Like that. And then what we're going to do is grab this distortion tool up here, and we're just going to bend it into shape of the logo. Just like that. And we're pretty much going to be using that technique on the entire logo. Just like that, yeah. So we're going to grab one of these vines, not all three. We're just going to lasso tool one of them, just like this. And then go layer via copy, smart object. And now we can start using this, make it a bit smaller, start using this for all these straight parts, and just keep building it up slowly. Alrighty guys, so we've pretty much built up the base of the logo here using a stupid amount of layers, but that's pretty much how I do that sort of stuff. So we're going to quickly hide the logo and see how that looks. That's looking pretty good now guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to match up the colors of the logo, we're going to fix up the brown vines and change them into sort of a grey color. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to go back through, probably should have done this at the start, and we're just going to control U on them and then change the saturation just a little bit. Actually no, we'll camera raw it just so we can keep our green. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into camera raw, and then we're going to go up here to our HLS adjustments, and on our saturation tab we're going to turn down the saturation of the orange and the luminance of the orange, just so it becomes more of a grey sort of colour. Now we're going to do that on every vine that's in here. Alrighty guys, so that is matched up a little bit nicer now, but the logo is really hollow and hard to see against the background, so what we're going to do now, we're going to add some extra photos of vines to sort of fill it up in the middle. We've got this image here, and obviously it's not a PNG, so we're going to quickly use the magic eraser tool, and we're just going to erase all this around so that we have a PNG version. And there we go. Now what we're going to do is going to make that a smart object, and we're going to make it smaller, and then pretty much we're going to do exactly what we just did. We're going to duplicate this over and over again and fill the insides. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the distortion tool and just make it a little bit more like an S shape, sort of like a snake kind of, just make it a little bit more curved and give it a bit more movement. And then we're just going to Control J and constantly duplicate this throughout the logo. Alrighty. So now last thing that we're going to do to sort of bring the logo more into the design is we're going to add some vines that are holding the logo. So the ones that we actually used within the logo, we're going to use the two other ones to make it look like it's holding up the logo, or that it's like dropping down from the jungle. So we're just going to lasso tool one of them here, layer via copy like we did before. Get a smart object, and then we're just going to make it a bit smaller just like this, and just make it drop down. I'm going to duplicate it with Control J, bring it down, put it behind. Control J again, and then just put this one on like a diagonal sort of angle, and then maybe just curve it a little bit. Just like that. Put that one below the layer. Duplicate that one again, and then have it like stretching behind the logo. And then on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to Control J these couple, make them a bit bigger this time though. We're going to delete the bottom layer because we don't want that. And then we're going to have this one running all the way through the bottom here. Just like that. And as you can see, that makes it look like it's hooked on to sort of like something above, which really brings it into the depth of it. Now what we're going to do is going to work on lighting and blending. So first thing that we need to do is blend the background in with pretty much, so we're going to go off the very first picture of the background. That's what everything else is going to blend with. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that all these are sort of matching up. These are pretty much blended pretty well. We're just going to add some extra lighting. So these mountains back here are quite like a light blue sort of color. So we're going to quickly just pick like a light blue from around there. Just like that, and we're gonna hold Alt, clip a brand new layer on, and just with a zero hardness brush, just go over the top of these, just like this, and then put it on a screen layer, just like that. Just go straight over the top, bring down the opacity a bit, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add an exposure layer. I'm going to bring that one down a bit, flip that on with Alt again, like that, and just sort of make it a little bit darker. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab a white brush, and we're going to clip that one back on top again, holding Alt, and we're just going to run that one across the top, just like this. And then we're going to put that on an overlay. And then we're going to go down here to FX, blending options. And then in our blending options here, we're going to go to our blend if slider, and then we're going to hold Alt, split on underlying layer, and just drag that one across a bit, just like this, until it sort of matches the lighting that you guys are after. So that's a nice little touch on the top there, like that. And now we're going to repeat the same process for the other side. And just like that, the mountains are starting to blend in a little bit more. With the exposure layer though, just because this mountain over here is a little bit closer to the sun, what we're going to do is we're going to grab a black brush on our layer mask for our exposure, and we're just going to get rid of that on the mountains at the back here, just so they have a little bit more light and creates a little bit more depth. Alrighty, so the mountains are blended in pretty nicely now, so we're just going to add a little bit more lighting on the other one here. We're just going to grab our black brush, and then I'm going to just bring that down the bottom like this, and then put that one on a soft light, and then bring down the opacity a bit. And then we're going to make sure this side over here is the darkest, because that's obviously the furthest away from the light source. And we're just going to erase top so the light's still hitting the top. That. Make sure it's quite dark down the bottom. Alright, that's looking good. Just realized that the top of these aren't looking too fantastic. So we're going to quickly go over it with one of our brushes. Quickly add a light source. This is pretty much like a decent light source, but we're just going to make it stand out that little bit more. So we're just going to grab a normal brush yet again and blow all the layers except for the background, of course. Just grab a white brush and sort of just put one over there in that direction on an overlay, sort of like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. I'm going to squish our brush down like this so that it sort of becomes like a beam, like that. And then using this little arrow here, we're just going to position that, and we're going to do that a couple times in different positions to make it look like sunlight beams shooting out from the sunlight's direction, like that. Just keep angling it around, that, and then one more, and then put that on off light. And then we'll just quickly Gaussian blur that about 5.4 pixels. And now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the foreground cliff. So we're going to bring all these together real quick, group them up, Control J, and then we're going to right click and merge these, just so that we've got it as one big image. And what we're going to do now is grab an exposure layer up in adjustments, flip that one on top using Alt, and then bring that down a bit. And then on the layer mask, we're going to use a black brush and just erase away from the front here. That the closer it is to the camera, the brighter it is. And of course, if we aren't satisfied with that, we can just repaint it back with the white brush a little bit. But I am pretty happy with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly grab the SAW logo that we have from before. We've hidden it all the way at the bottom here. A lot of layers, I know it gets very confusing. I don't even know how to find my way through them, but you get used to it. So we've got our logo here, and we're going to just flip that one vertically, and I'm going to just position this one, hold Control and then Z, and just sort of position it like this. That's about what the light would be doing, a little bit out like this. Just like that, and then we're going to make that black. Like that. And then we're going to bring that one back down to the cliffs. That. I'm going to create a smart object out of that one, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to Gaussian blur it very lightly. About 0.17, and then bring down the opacity. Now obviously the logo isn't going to be creating such a thick shadow because of all the little spots and dots in it and everything like that. So what we're going to do, and before we do that actually, we need to rasterize this layer, and then we're going to go over this part here with the blur tool, just because the further away it goes the more blur it should have. So we're just going to sort of run over it just around the back here, the opacity up a little bit, and then keep running over it at the back here. Alright, looking good. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a layer mask on the top, and then we're just going to grab a sort of the chalk brush, I think it's called. Yep, and then we're just going to randomly just put little spots just like this, that it isn't completely whole. Just random little spots like that, just to give it a little bit of randomness like the vines are. Alright, that's looking good. Alrighty, so we're going to work on the trees now, so we'll go back a normal brush, and now tree layer on the left here, we're just going to grab a black brush, clip that one on, and then pretty much do not use a white brush, use a black brush, sorry. Make sure that one's clipped onto the tree, and then just at the back here, just drawing light shadow, sort of like that. Bring down the opacity till it suits. Yeah, probably just a little bit less than that, probably about 40 or so. And we'll do the same on the other side. Back over here. Grab a brush and clip it on sides. Bring the opacity down a bit. That. And then we're pretty much just going to repeat that process for everything that's in the foreground. So on this one as well. And a black brush on it, like that. I'll be exposed to a lot more sunlight, so that'll just be like nice light shadow. This one here will be a little bit darker, so I'm gonna find it first. There it is. Clip on, and then just. Alrighty, that is looking good. So now we're going to work with the front part here. The first thing that I would be doing is organizing your layers and not doing what I do. It's very silly. We're going to quickly organize this here. This is all the inside vines. We'll just call that inside vine. I can't spell. I know what it means, who cares. And then we've got our vines attaching to the logo. Let's call that behind logo. Bring these all together, group them. Logo. So if we get that now, that's pretty much everything with the logo. We don't need these vines anymore. And now we can start working on the top here. So I'm just hoping to merge everything actually at the top, because we want it all sort of the same color. So I don't want to be doing it individually. I'm gonna hide all the layers real quick. That's at the top. And then we'll merge them all together, and then we'll color match. And I think we've just got these two ones down the bottom here. Ooh, we don't want that though. Can't do that. Gonna make sure the one's behind the trees. Okay. We'll merge these two together and on object, and then we're gonna go color overlay and then just have a solid black and then just bring down the opacity a bit. Just like that. Making it quite dark. And we're gonna do the exact same on our foliage at the top. Just with a black color overlay like that. And then we're gonna add a inner shadow on probably a little bit of a yellowy white sort of color, probably like a cream sort of color. And then we're gonna change the sunlight so that it's coming from this sort of angle down the bottom here. And then we're just gonna give that a slight little bit of a glow on all of our plants. Not much, probably just slight glow like that. Yep, that looks nice. Alrighty, so now we're going to quickly work on the logos shadowing, because that's a little bit off, of course. The shadowing is going to be pretty hard to match on this just because of how many small parts of the logo there is. So we're just going to do like a bulk sort of shadow, which will give us the same sort of effect, but not quite as precise, of course. Then we're going to go back to our blending options again and split the slider, except this time I'm going to split it on the light part. Just bring that one down, that. And then we're going to erase it, of course, at the top here. And this side of the vines need to be dark. The other bits getting light. But apart from that, that is pretty much done, guys. There's not much else that we could do here. We could add like some few like color corrections and stuff like that, but that's sort of just up to you guys. Then you obviously can add sponsors and everything else like that on the sides to fill it up a little bit, but depending on what team you're doing it for, they might not have many sponsors. But anyway, guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. As I said at the start, if this hits 200 likes, I will make a 4th manipulation header tutorial. So make sure to drop a like and a comment. But anyway, guys, it's been your boy Jordan, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Peace, and I'm out.